Resilience to me is the way you look at life. Is it doesn't happen to you, it happens for you.
What if you could learn wisdom from a book? Well, in this episode, I am joined by Dr. Laura Gabayan, a physician and researcher who, as a result of her wisdom research project, has identified 8 key traits that, combined, make a person wise. Common Wisdom: 8 Scientific Elements of a Meaningful Life is the title of her book. But this conversation goes far beyond research. After publishing her book, Laura lost her home in the LA fires while facing a serious and still undiagnosed health condition that has even affected her speech. And yet, she continues to embody one of the very traits that make one wise: resilience. This is a powerful conversation about wisdom, adversity, and what it truly means to live well, especially when life doesn't go as planned. Welcome to Good is What Makes You Feel Well, Mama Terra's podcast. Each week, we will explore topics that impact our physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual health through inspiring transformation stories. Here, you will find practical guidance and actionable strategies to apply in your daily life. I'm your host, Ana Rezende, author, health coach, and speaker. I'm here to help you protect your energy, strengthen your well-being, and thrive through life's transitions. If you are a student, a parent, a teacher, or someone who cares about well-being, go to Amazon and check my book, Living Your Best Life in College. Now, let's dive in and discover what really makes you feel well.
Abraço uma pessoa amiga, corre na chuva, escala a montanha, contempla a vista, transcende, levita.
Hello, Dr. Gabayan. Did I say it
Hello,
right?
Gabayan, yes.
Welcome to Good is What Makes You Feel Well.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, you're so welcome. For us to start our conversation, I would like to ask you what, in this moment of your life, makes you feel well?
I think looking at the 8 elements of my research study in the book, I think self-care, I think those all make me feel well.
Mm-hmm. How self-care looks for you?
Well, it varies. I think just having downtime, and I write that in my book as well. I think just doing nothing is important for your brain to regenerate. With the electronics and email and internet and this and that. So I think just doing nothing is good for you. So reading a book, having downtime.
Mm-hmm. It's good indeed. Yeah. So, how this concept of feeling well has evolved throughout your life? You said now you value downtime,
Well,
but
it's funny because it took me to develop this condition. So I have chronic Lyme disease. And first it
okay.
was misdiagnosis and autoimmune condition. But I still learn my speech. I apologize if I'm not clear. And it took stopping my body not being weak all over to think, well, who thinks outside the box? The wise think outside the box. And that's when I did a research project looking at ways like we didn't know much about it. So I interviewed 60 wise individuals and for my book Common Wisdom, and I found through the interviews, I defined wisdom as the 8 elements. And the
Mm-hmm.
second element was kindness.
Mm.
And let me tell you what all the elements are: resilience, kindness, positivity, spirituality, humility, tolerance, creativity, and curiosity.
Oh my
And
gosh.
and a big we talked about was kindness to yourself. So when we
Mm-hmm.
talk about self-care, I think kindness to yourself goes into there.
Mm-hmm. It does. Definitely does. Tell me more because those 8 elements are all so, so important.
Funny because I never thought of them like that. Of course, I know that's the beauty of doing research is that you don't know anything when you go in.
Uh-huh.
And so resilience being the first one, and a lot of the people I had gone through, so they're in order. Most of the people I spoke with were resilient.
Mm.
And curiosity was the last one, only because they had to say I'm a curious person.
Mm-hmm.
And so I never thought about it this way until I went through my own issues of the fire, and I told behind me is the Palisades, and that's where I lost my home, and I used to
Mm.
live, and it was beautiful, but it reminded me that wait, the 60 people I spoke with were resilient, and it was a big part of their lives.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah, it's not easy, right? To go
No,
through
and so
that.
they had really gone through a lot, and that helped me.
Mm-hmm. So you lost your home in this last fire?
The
20.
wildfires, yes, in January.
Okay. Yeah, I know some other people that lost their houses too in this
It was a
area.
big one. It was a big
Mm-hmm.
fire.
Yeah, it was really, really sad. So, what your resilience brought into you after the fire?
Well, I think it's not only, so first of all, dealing with my own health condition, and
Mm-hmm.
then the fire. I think resilience to me is the way you look at life, is it doesn't happen to you, it happens for you. So the reason I say for you is I needed something to stop my body to change my life. Or else I was a doctor working in the yard and I would have done the same thing over and over. And I needed something to kind of move my focus to something else. And then the fire, no one would have imagined that our whole city would get wiped off the map, and it did. And I needed something like that to get me more central in LA. And I am
Mm,
more central, and I like being central. Don't get me wrong. All of this has been very sad, but I needed it.
yeah, nothing happens by chance, right?
Right.
Everything has a reason. And I love your saying because I say that a lot myself. Life doesn't happen to us, it happens for us. Everything in life happens for a reason, for our growth, right? Yeah, I
Well,
love that.
Well, the famous saying, "What doesn't kill you makes you stronger," is essentially saying what difficulties will make you stronger.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So tell me more about your disease and how far back it started and your journey through and your discoveries.
I'm an ER physician, and I was doing normal, and I think it was around after the birth of my third child. Before my fourth, I started to feel random symptoms. And I
Mm,
went to a doctor and they're like, "Oh yeah, we think it's this." And then I kept treating this and I
mm-hmm.
kept getting worse and worse.
Mm,
And so then another doctor found what it really was, which was the Lyme disease. And
mm,
I spent a while killing that off, but I still have stroke symptoms. So I'm trying to figure out why I still have problems. But I know that Lyme could affect your nerves in a way that kind of take a while to bounce back.
mm-hmm,
I'm not practicing anymore. I don't view being a doctor as my job in life. Now I'm an author and
mm-hmm,
I've moved over to that space.
mm-hmm. Do you think being a physician back then helped you identify or guide you in the search for reasons and root causes?
I think being a physician still helps me because I know if get worse after being told you have something and you're taking medicine, you keep getting worse and worse and worse, then that's wrong. So
Mm-hmm,
I think being a physician helped me in that I know what that it was not. I think being a researcher is what helped me do the project. And so after I went to medical school, I did emergency medicine. And after emergency medicine, I did more years learning about research. And
mm-hmm,
that helped me too.
mm-hmm. And you had 4 kids.
Yes, I have four, and I had them. I want to say I had them in fellowship and then after.
Mm-hmm.
Fellowship was the time I did research. I think having kids during residency is really hard.
Yeah.
Residency is when you pull like 12, 13, 14 hours and other people give your schedule. You're barely surviving.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that had any contribution for your symptoms? No?
No, I think so. I remember 3 days of not being able to take notes when I was in college. And that's when I was bitten by a tick. And
Mm.
I think it just sat there in my body and it did not manifest till after my third child. So no, I felt nothing before. I even forgot about it.
Mm-hmm. And do you mind sharing your symptoms?
Oh, I have a weakness all over and I
Mm.
have poor balance.
Mm.
And it's hard for me to even walk half a block.
Mm.
So, I just don't, I feel weak. I'm not myself.
Mm-hmm. And then now you're doing much better than no.
I'm a lot worse. But what, something will work. I don't know what, but something will work.
Okay. That's interesting. And you were able to, even though you still have symptoms, you were able to publish.
Well, it's funny because I broke the book in 2023.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I was trying to kill the Lyme. I was more aggressive. And if anyone understands how Lyme disease works, those bugs, they kind of try to come out more when you try to kill them off.
Mm.
And so I remember the bugs would wake me up at 1 in the morning. So I would just wake up at 1 and I was like, why am I awake? And I would go write my book.
Mm.
And I would go back to sleep around 4, but I wrote between 1 and 4.
Mm-hmm. So you actually use your resilience to write this book, right?
Yes, yes.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So what else do you acknowledge today as self-care besides resilience? And you said compassion, right?
Well, I think self-care is taking care of yourself. So it could be anything for anyone. what we think is the normal self-care is getting a massage and going to a spa. But it could be, self-care for a guy. It may not be that. It may be spending time with his friends watching football. So self-care looks different for everyone. It's what kind of feeds your soul. And
Mm.
you don't realize what it is until you think about it sometimes, or if you have to make it a priority. So for me, now that I've kind of focused more on the book, I focus also on my own self-care.
Mm-hmm. And what it does look like for you?
For example, I take a part of a certain day off and I enjoy my time to myself. If I watch a show, I listen to music, I read a book, I sit outside, I sit in nature, wherever it is that works for a person. I definitely think being in nature helps
Mm-hmm.
people.
Yeah. Well, that is a passion of mine. How nature impacts our health in all the aspects possible. So I love that you mentioned that. So, from your research, you talked to all those people and you noticed that they were all resilient. And then
Well,
you
I think
ranked.
I think it's important to know, and this I tell people, resilience was the most common element, but it didn't mean everyone was.
Mm-hmm,
And so what the way I went through it was, first of all, finding those 60 people was not easy.
I bet it wasn't.
And it was in North America, so it was US and Canada. And then once I found them, so I had a team, I had a research assistant and a media specialist, and I and the other two would view all the internet videos of the interviews had. And together we would give them a category
Mm,
of what they were. So, but I was the one who used my scientific skills to collapse the category. So, for example, the third element was positivity. And
mm-hmm,
what went into positivity was gratitude and
mm-hmm,
humor. And so if we saw someone who was talking about how gratitude was important to them. They kept gratitude journals both in the morning, or I think one professor we interviewed had all of her students keep gratitude journals. So gratitude was important to them. So that person got positivity, even though they didn't say it. So,
mm-hmm,
or another one was very funny. Humor was a big part of his life, for example. So he got humor, but getting humor went into positivity.
mm-hmm. Yeah, I see. And then you ranked them all in order, right?
Right, so the only two elements that require that they say out the specific word was creativity and curiosity, the last two. The
Mm-hmm,
rest, for example, humility. I remember I interviewed someone who was, he had gotten many gold records. He was a Grammy winner and he sold over 100,000 or 100 million, I don't remember, records before the age of the internet.
mm-hmm. Million, probably.
100 million, I want to say. And he was very humble about it. So he got
Mm-hmm.
humility. It was very interesting.
I love that. And how was the process of selecting those people?
Oh, you don't choose them.
No, it
I'm
was just
not
random.
but yeah, it's just whoever was recommended for the project. And I just I interviewed enough people to let the numbers tell us.
Mm-hmm.
because I wouldn't know, I didn't know any of them. And
Mm.
so, and as a researcher, you don't meddle with the project. You don't, choose it. The only thing I did say is you have to be age 50 to 79 because
Mm.
I had seen wisdom spiked at age 50 to 79. So that's why.
Yeah, that is something very interesting because I'm 52 and I think going through going through the phases of life was really different, but reaching that midterm that I call the 50, I feel so much wiser and I'm living the best part of my life.
A lot of people, they're advised. I won the questions, so everyone got the same 10 questions. And it was none of them were what is wisdom to you? How do you find wisdom? No. I was trying to get to know them. And one of the questions was, what is your advice for people who are younger?
Mm.
And I think that the majority were under the impression, or they felt like those that were younger are more, or they listen more to their emotions. And
Mm-hmm.
because they have less ability to control their emotions, they suffer more because of that. So the emotions had a big part in it. So yes, I heard from a lot of older adults how having emotional control was really important to them. And it makes sense.
It totally does. It totally does. Yeah. So not only have control over the emotion, because I think it's more the control over the reaction or the response that we can give the emotion, right? So
Right,
the way we don't let the emotion control us,
right.
right? So I think that is the biggest difference. And maybe the driver to gratitude, maybe the driver to resilience, understanding, and knowing how to deal with the emotions, then it gives you more resilience, I think, and it gives you more gratitude.
Probably
It's a kind of a
like a cycle.
it's yeah, it's all interconnected like a spider web. I think
Right,
one thing leads to the other, and it's really interesting. Mm-hmm.
it is.
Yeah. Then the process of writing the book was just like organizing the whole research and
I
categorizing
don't
those.
think it's funny because it didn't. The research broke down. So the way I wrote the book is, it's written in a few in the chapters based on the element.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and I didn't have a lot of content. It was based on my own studies and what I had read about the last 10 years, what I paid attention to, but my editor gave me more examples and he made it more reader friendly. But the book is very easy to read and very to the point because that's how I am.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So did you publish before or after the fire?
Oh no, I published last year. The
Okay,
fires
after.
happened this year.
Okay, okay. Huh. How interesting, huh?
Yes.
Tell me about this, your reflections after the fact, knowing that you have written about resilience and all those elements.
I think looking at the 8 elements now, it makes sense. And I think about it, I'm like, oh yeah. So when I wrote about them in the book, a lot of it makes sense. is the foundation, I think, of life. And it's a way but given that I was a researcher, having one word about that person's was and not explaining what it was, breaking it down to those 8 elements. And as I said, those 8 are resilience, kindness, positivity, spirituality, humility, tolerance, creativity, and curiosity.
Mm-hmm.
And having that, I think just looking at those, I'm like, oh, that makes sense. And in the book, I described that too.
Mm-hmm. They are great 8 elements. And how was your approach to spirituality on the
That was
questions?
the hardest chapter for me to write. Frankly,
Oh, as a
I
doctor?
really, yeah, it was really hard. And I'm a scientist, so it was really hard because I didn't know what to make of it. And I think when I wrote it, it was one of the first, and my editor was like, no, just write it all the way at the end. So I wrote because I didn't do a good job with it. And I did write it then, and when I wrote at the end, the way I think about spirituality is when you can't explain something, like your attraction to another human being, to be a friend or to be a partner, whatever it is, or miracles, or if you can't explain them, then it's spirituality. I had someone ask me once, well, was everyone spiritual? I go, no. It was our fourth element. It was
Mm-hmm.
not as much as you would think, but it was part of their lives.
Mm-hmm. And how you came to that conclusion based on your interviews?
Like
Okay.
one person said every morning, I won't forget this. She said she has breakfast with God
Mm,
and she spends time just thinking. And another person said they pray
mm,
all the time. And it was not the prayer with wanting a change. It was prayer to kind of have something else listen to them.
mm-hmm.
The idea to put it in the universe. So that's how it came. I never thought about it, but that's how it came about.
Mm-hmm. This connection with the spirituality, do you have it in your own life?
I'm definitely a lot more spiritual now.
Mm,
I was not before. I would say that, it was just, I didn't see it. I mean, I learned as a scientist, if you don't see it, if you can't measure it, if you can't explain it, it doesn't exist. And so I learned the opposite. And I think in spirituality, the idea is you can't explain it. Yeah, and so it's just believing that it does exist. So it's something I'm learning more of, but I definitely was not understanding what spirituality is 10, 15 years ago.
mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that. And what about kindness? You said kindness with oneself being part of self-care, right? What else? Kindness with others too, that they
Well,
mentioned?
kindness is, I mean, a lot of people one of the questions is I ask them what quality was really important to them when they meet other people.
Mm-hmm.
And it was that they're kind. And
Mm-hmm.
it's true, you don't want to be around someone who's not. And you don't want to be around or connect with someone who's unkind. So that was a big one, being surrounded by kindness. But also
Mm-hmm.
being kind to yourself, as I said, having that time for yourself.
Yeah,
Like
absolutely.
I remember I had one person who was a spiritual life coach, and she said every day she takes a break in her work to meditate.
Mm-hmm.
And that makes her a better coach. And that was her way of being kind to herself.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I agree. That's a very good example. It's interesting how curiosity is in one of the 8 elements, right?
I, I think curiosity it was the eighth. And I think is the foundation of all of them. I think to be whatever one of the others, you have to be curious. I know to get the element of curiosity assigned to you, you had to say how important it was to you. You had to say the word. But the more I think about it, I think it shouldn't be it's the foundation of all of them.
Yeah, and I agree. Because if you're curious, then
You're tolerant, you're humble, you're kind to others, you're resilient because you're curious about what other life could I live. Or it's just curiosity can build the foundation for a lot of things.
mhm, very true. Very true. You wrote the first book and then there is a journal, right?
So after every chapter, there are questions about, they're just like reflective questions. They're called things to ask yourself. And I had done a few podcasts and they liked those questions. So when I wrote the journal, the journal specifically has more of those questions. It's
Mm-hmm.
not, it's meant, it can be thought about on its own. It'll help anyone, but it's more helpful to have that and the book.
Mm-hmm. Do you tell anything at all about your health journey in the book or not? Just the research.
Yeah, in the my note in the beginning, and then in the journal, I talk about how important it is to write and how writing could be so important to anyone.
Yeah. And I couldn't agree more. Yeah. Almost everybody that I talk to tells me how important journaling or writing has been to them.
Yeah, I agree.
Almost everybody. And how healing it is. How a good support system for emotions, for
It's
processing.
it's kind of like an objective ear, and it makes you look at something and realize, oh, that's extreme way to think, or that's not. I don't know. It's kind of like balances it out, like makes it more realistic for you to think about it.
Yeah, I think so too. Now you don't work as a doctor anymore, as a physician
Yeah.
anymore. So you're just promoting your books.
I mean, I had to hire a research assistant. I hired a marketing specialist. They say the highest state of consciousness is wisdom. So before so I'm done. And I'm not an author. I've written a lot of manuscripts for journals, like scientific journals, but writing is not something I plan on doing
Mm-hmm.
long term.
Okay.
I'm not an author.
Okay.
I am because I wrote this book, but I don't plan on doing this long term.
Okay. So you're going to just promote the book now and
And I do enjoy speaking.
uh-huh.
So, but right now my focus is on my health. And once my health is better, then I will focus more time on speaking and promoting the book.
Mm-hmm. Would you mind sharing what are the next steps on your health journey?
Oh, I don't know. I just one thing I learned from speaking to the 60 was you don't give up. And I've met people And, after, if like, for example, I just was with a doctor since March, and I feel different. I feel a little worse. I was like, I don't think it's gonna work. So now I found a different doctor. He's in Pennsylvania. I'm in California. We're gonna Zoom. But you just keep going until you find someone who will help you out.
Well, tell me what have you tried? Just conventional medicine, or have you tried
Oh,
any?
definitely not.
No.
I think what I found out it was Lyme. I tried the antibiotics, and then I tried the hyperbaric oxygen chamber
Mm-hmm.
32 times. I tried something called plasma exchange. I think 15 times is when they take your blood and they throw away the plasma. And I tried something called EBU, and EBU was when they take your blood and put it through ozone. I did that 5 times.
Oh.
Because it was pretty intense. And it's funny because the people I've seen 2 doctors recently who rechecked my Lyme titers and they came back negative.
Mm.
And so they're like, well, then why do you still have symptoms? I'm like, well, let me go see someone else. I'll figure it out. I'll figure out why. I don't know. If you can't figure it out, I'll figure it out. I'll find someone else. And that's the important part of having, I'm not saying I have the wisdom, but I have the sense of never giving up.
Mm-hmm.
And
That's good.
and physician and just resorting to, oh well, we don't know what it is not enough. I think just trying to figure out what are other ways that can make you better is important.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, never give up. Never give up. Yeah.
Right. And never give up and be your own advocate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
And
Right.
I have to say, it's hard. I don't know, it's hard.
It is. Of course. Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So for us to wrap up, is there anything that I did not ask that you would like to mention?
So I have a website named lauragabayan.com.
Mm-hmm.
And I recently completed a wisdom IQ test. And if people Google wisdom IQ test, they'll come up with it. It takes about 5 to 7 minutes to take. It's on my website. And the idea of it is to understand what you're good at and what you're not. It
Mm-hmm.
separates the 8 elements, and it took me a long time to write this, but it
Mm-hmm.
separates the 8 elements into questions and makes people realize how important are those questions for you. So I think Wisdom IQ test is great. My book is on Amazon, but I think if you look for the Wisdom IQ test, that's how you can get my name and look for it on Amazon because I have a hard last name.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But I'll have it on the show notes with the link straight to the book on Amazon. And I'll have your website as well so people can find the IQ test.
Great.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you for
Um,
having me.
yeah, my pleasure. My pleasure.
Wow, what a powerful reminder that wisdom isn't just something we learn, it's something we live, especially in life's hardest moments. So, my friends, here are the 8 elements of a meaningful life. Number 1, resilience. Then, kindness, positivity, spirituality, humility, tolerance, creativity, and curiosity. Just take a moment to reflect on that. Yes, I know. They are all important. If this conversation resonated with you, don't forget to share it with someone who might need it. And follow the podcast for more inspiring stories and practical tools to help you feel your best. See you next time.
Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure you follow the show. You can also share it with your friends, rate it, and write a review. Rates and reviews help the show go to the top ranks so more people can benefit from its message. See you in the next episode. Until then, remember, good is what makes you feel well.
A escala, a montanha, contempla a vista.